There is no denying that millions of Americans ended up burnt out in their jobs. Pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, can you prevent this from happening to you in the future or even right now? Joining us to talk about this, Demir Bentley, co-founder of the Life Hack Method. Demir, you're coming to us from Colombia because let's get into your background just for a second before we get into how you can help people. Because you worked on Wall Street, you are a UC Berkeley grad. Your wife also had a very high stress, long hour job. And then one day y'all just decided that wasn't working for you anymore.
I wish I could say it was that simple. Actually, I went to the hospital, had a near-death experience, and my doctors couldn't figure out what it was, and finally realized that I had something called salaryman death syndrome, which is where you work yourself to death. So my doctors, I wish I could say that I was the one who ended it, but my doctors really said, this is enough, you've got to stop.
So you went from working, what, like 80 hours a week to how many now?
Yeah, not to make anyone jealous, but we work 4 hours a day.
4 hours a day. And you consider yourself to be just as, if not more successful than you were when you were working 80 hours a day. So how does one do that?
Yeah, I mean, man, so many folks are burned out and people think about a spectrum from I could be successful and kill myself working, or if I want to be happy, then I guess I have to just be unsuccessful. And that's just a completely false choice. So I'd love to give some people some tips to just escape that trap.
Okay, so it's Monday. I mean, for a lot of people, it's a holiday here in the United States, but let's pretend it's just a regular Monday and people are starting their week. What do they do mentally to prepare for that week?
Okay, let's rewind a little bit. I would suggest that number one tip is plan your week ahead of time on Friday afternoon or Saturday when everything's still fresh in your mind. That does two things. Studies show that people who plan their week ahead of time feel more calm, in control, and yes, they actually get a lot more done. But they're also more psychologically resilient when they hit obstacles in the week. So tip number one, take time on Friday afternoon or Saturday morning to make a plan for the coming week. Every single week, everybody knows they should be doing this, but less than 6% of people actually do it.
What does it mean to prioritize based on leverage?
Yeah, leverage is something interesting, right? So a quick example is I had a client named Rhonda who was working at home, 3 kids doing home learning in a cramped, small apartment. I'm sure people can relate. And
especially in
she's
San
just
Francisco.
drowning. Right? She was just couldn't see a way out, right? And the problem is that life isn't fair, right? Today, life comes at us from all directions, and we can only fight on one front at a time. So the way to escape this kind of trap is to focus whatever limited energy and time you have on one thing that makes your life easier. And Rhonda actually found one of those leverage points in a meal prep service that ended up saving her 15 hours a week. That's a really unexpected place. But when you think about it, she went from 20 hours a week in food prep between planning meals, shopping for meals, cooking meals, cleaning up for meals, to 5 hours a week. That's 15 hours a week for the rest of time that she's getting back. That's leverage right there.
I see. So, right, she decided that her time was more valuable being spent doing literally anything else than food prep. That makes sense to me. This is the one I like the best. Let fires burn in order to get your top priority done. So that means some things you can't pay attention to, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, in the Napoleonic Wars, they had this system of triage. They had so many wounded soldiers coming in at them that they couldn't treat them all at once. And, doctors are sworn to save lives. And so they tried to save every single person. And what happened was actually more people got sick and died overall. And so the triage system is really something to say, hey, we're going to make the tough decision to let some of these people get sicker or even die so that we can do more good overall. And we really need that in our productivity, don't we? Like to look at certain tasks and say, I want to do them all. I feel like I need to do them all. But in truth, I need to let some of these die so that I can do more good overall.
Delegation is your friend. Taco your to-do list. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So TACO is an acronym that we created, just a quick sort of way to say, how can I get things off my plate? And there's 4 ways, and it stands for TACO: terminate, automate, consolidate, and outsource. Terminate is simple, right? I mean, I've coached with over 50,000 clients. I have never found one who didn't have things on the to-do list that frankly just needed to get out of there. Either kill them completely or just delay them to next week or next month. Automate, a little bit more nuanced. Reggie, people don't realize that, for example, you can automate a lot of your email response in Microsoft Office. So out of the people who use a very common system like Microsoft Office, they don't realize they can create email templates to rapidly reduce the time it takes them to respond to email. So automate really just means look at the technology you're using and see if it can save you a little bit of time. And consolidate's easy. You probably already do this. When you're doing chores, don't spread out your chores throughout the whole week when you're going to get in the car and drive around. Try to consolidate them together so that you get, a nice little bunch of time where you're focused on that thing. And outsource is, of course, outsource. Get it off your plate. See if somebody else can do it.
That's my favorite one. We're going to end on this. What if you try these things and they may help, but it may not solve the problem of feeling burnt out? You're at the end of your rope, and now it's kind of an emergency. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, again, having coached with 50,000 people, you are closer to relief than you think. A lot of people, when you're in overwhelm, when you're in burnout, it's like depression. It takes over your entire world, Reggie. But much like depression, it's a mile wide and really paper thin. So honestly, some of the small steps, I'll come back to step number one. When people tell me, Demir, I don't have time for your tips, just tell me one thing that I can do. I say, make a plan for the week. That's it. If you just plan for the week on Friday afternoon, every single week, that is the smallest hanging fruit on the tree. And I'll tell you what, 2-3 weeks later, you're going to feel like a very, very different person. You're going to get out of that sort of bog of craziness. So, we actually show people how to plan their week at winningtheweek.com. It's a free training. So if you've ever said to yourself, well, gosh, how do I even do it? Come let us show you for free.
Demir, this was so helpful. Thank you for helping to shine a path to a way that we're not going to burn ourselves out, and say hi to Colombia for us.
I will. Thanks, Reg.